Custom nations in EU4 can be very easily broken and contain multiple overpowered win buttons. You certainly don't need me to tell you that a bonus such as plus 10% discipline, or cavalry shock plus 1, or even infantry fire plus 1 are completely broken and are enough to just win the game. Other completely broken things, like starting with Siberian frontiers in America, or even the economic win button known as flat goods produced plus 2 is stupidly strong, right? That's plus 10 effective production development on every single province. That's broken. However, while these bonuses accurately get all the attention, instead today I want to look at 5 more fun and obscure custom nation builds that are really strong, but dare I say more memey in their construction, which lets you play the game in a much more unique and fun way, utilizing the custom nation game mechanic. As always, we'll be stacking these in ascending order, as best I can do for such an environment. Before we do get into the video, just a quick moment to say that a like would be appreciated, and a subscription would be amazing if you haven't already. Anyway, enough self-shitting, let's get straight into the first setup. For this, I'm going to suggest having your capital start as a mountain. Could be any mountain. I'm going to select Inatal because it's a gold mountain, so good mountain. The build itself revolves around 3 bonuses. You want to pick up Global Defender Dice Roll plus 1, which is already really good, and then pick up an Own Territory Dice Roll bonus of plus 1. Yep, you can start with both of these, of course you can. Remarkably, the base cost of Home Advantage is only 25 points. You're then able to combine these 2 bonuses with both a Land Leader Fire and Land Leader Shock Pip, and hopefully go ahead and grab some Yeli Army Tradition and Yeli Army Tradition decay debuffs to make sure that you maintain high Army Tradition for good generals. Because once you are actually done with this, you will have a capital -2 that you have a +2 dice roll bonus on top of, which you can then combine with the Age of Discovery bonus for, you guessed it, +1 combat bonus and Train of Capital. Oh dear, you're now just getting a +5 effective dice roll on every single mountain fight that you are defending. This is absolutely and completely busted, and it goes without saying that. It is an effective 5 general pip swing. So for example, the same as a 6 shock general fighting a 1 shock general, or a 5 shock general fighting a 0 shock general. If you then combine this with good generals, you can overcome some insane bonuses. Indeed, to really stack it to the absolute limits, unfortunately you will be unable to form Finland, as Finland is not a formable, it is only a releasable. However, if you can set up a capital in Gibraltar and get the AI to attack you by crossing across from Seta for a -2 dice roll, this will give you an effective -5 and then into a -7 for the enemy, which is obscene. It is literally larger than the biggest possible effective advantage in the game, and to really rub it in how stupid that becomes, it means that if you also have an extra, say, 3 general pips on top of the opponent from just having good generals, you're going to get like a +10 swing on fire or shock phases. And just to reiterate, something like -2 from attacking into mountains, or even a +1 on capital fights is really brutal, mainly because this affects both the fire and shock phase, meaning it applies, well, twice, as compared to something like +1 general fire. The AI I find also tends to not really evaluate the fact that you have a -5 on mountains that much, so you really can abuse this to get some ridiculous defensive fights, and you can get some insane Switzerland roleplay going this way. Basically, Switzerland too. But if you're more so annoyed by enemy forts and wish you could just go around them, well, there's actually just one really underrated ability that frankly just doesn't get talked around and makes for quite a funny build. All you need for this build is a round infrastructure maneuver, namely the ability to ignore zone of control. This is really funny, really stupid, and absolutely, completely and utterly broken. What does ignoring zone of control do? Well, naturally, if you, for example, have a fort in somewhere like Oskia, and you want to invade into Spain, you can go around that fort. But also, if you just have a line of forts like this, you can just go through them. You just ignore the fort mechanic, it's optional now. It's kind of a meme that the whole AI is able to ignore forts, but if you ever felt jealous, now you can do it too. Just to be clear again, the AI does not ignore fort zone of control. Every single time people have said they found evidence of it and submitted it to me, I've now gone through like 20 saves of people doing that. I was able to eventually find how exactly the AI build was able to bypass their zone of control, because they don't bypass zone of control, they play by the same rules as you do. Anyway, mini tangent aside, this lets you ignore that rule. It's really funny and really stupid, especially if you then go ahead and combine it with zoom builds, namely grab 20% movement speed, go horde for an extra 20% movement speed, and just to really rub it in, grab force march course no power, meaning that you're just able to force march for free, and grab +2 land leader maneuver pips, as each pip of a land leader maneuver gives you an effective plus 5% movement speed. So this is an effective plus 10% And if you have your land leaders always at 6 maneuver, this is another 30% movement speed, meaning you go zoom zoom. This lets you just zoom zoom around the AI, go onto their capitals, assault them, and just have a free time. Very fun of just beating out AIs. If someone has like 50 allies, you can knock all of them out, and yeah, just go around people's forts. You don't really get war score from this, but you're also able to snipe enemy stacks if they're hiding behind a fort, because they're not hiding behind a fort. Basically, ignore zone of control. Surprisingly fun. Not really talked about. Would certainly recommend. But there's not much more to say about this build, so let's go on to the next one, because if you're tired about the AI bypassing your forts, well, I have quite the convoluted but interesting build for you. So set up a bit of a bigger nation in this case, just to really demonstrate what's going on. But as part of this build, you want to go ahead and change your technology group to Indian, and this is very important. Pick any religion that isn't Hindu, because we need the Jain estate. So Catholic will work, and I'm going to stick with Catholic, but it's really your choice. Just make sure you are not Hindu. Then in your ideas, you want to go ahead and grab, I'd recommend both construction cost, but crucially, construction time. Now, custom nations let you stack construction time to minus 40%. You can see where this is going. I'm also quickly going to give myself plus 20% all estate influence, but when you load into this nation, you will see that, first of all, you have access to the Jains, and what you want to do is make sure the Jains have both 60 influence and at least 60 loyalty. You can do this by selling some crown land, getting some states going, give them some privileges, whatever needs to be done, as this will give you an extra minus 10% construction time. Oh no, but the build isn't complete until you get Admin Tech 5 and you're able to complete your first idea group. We are of course talking about infrastructure ideas, because what's that? The finisher has minus 25% construction time. This is actually the most you could stack it conventionally. Now, I'm going to have to unpause to update the Jains estate, at least they need a month tick. But as you can see, with Jains minus 10%, corner cutting giving you minus 40% from your custom nations, if you have the economic ideas completed for minus 25, and this is important, unfortunately, you have to dev the province up to 5, as well as get iron, and the iron is kind of necessary. There's not a lot of modifiers. In fact, this is basically every single modifier in the game for construction time that isn't tied to a province. Well, you're able to reduce construction time down to 100%, which is quite strong. Naturally, it means that, for example, you can build a marketplace instantly. Thank you for all those events. Thank you. But these iron provinces now become absolute landmines, and there's some really good ones. Like this iron mine inside the mountains, this iron mine in the forest, even Germany has a couple good ones, and Austria and the Swiss especially are full of hill and iron mines for you to enjoy. And just look at Austria. Mountain, mountain, mountain. Beautiful land for this trolling, because what you're able to do, of course, is that let's say there's an enemy invading you, they walk past this province, you're able to go ahead, and the moment they've done that, well, if you have 160 ducats, this is where the construction cost comes in, you can go ahead and build a fort. Instantly. And now this fort is going to give you zone of control behind them. You've now successfully zone of controlled the AI, or whoever tries to walk into your land, behind you. Congratulations, if you ever win that one battle, they will be zoned out of their normal retreat path and will be hence trapped and stack wiped. On top of course, having instant construction time for manufactories or other buildings like temples and workshops, the best way of abusing this is, of course, the zone of control abuse. And yeah, it's stupid, it's completely unintentional and very funny. Would recommend. Enjoy. I'd recommend also timing this to be near the end of the month tick, because forts do not apply a zone of control when their fort garrison is low, specifically below 100 men. So you need to make sure that you basically build the building on like the 29th of the month, so that when the month ticks over, the month updates the next month, the fort garrison has a day to recover, or a month, which lets you exert zone of control to achieve this kind of, for lack of a better word, trolling. It's like navally catching the enemies on an island, only the island is the Iron Province, and instead of being caught by the enemy navy, they've been caught by an enemy surprise fort. But surprise fort mechanics aside, what else do I have for you? Well, it only keeps getting stupider from here. See, for this we need to go back to the birthplace of democracy. Well, actually we don't need to do that at all, you can do this anyway. I'm just going to do this in the birthplace of democracy for fun. See, this build is about achieving true democracy. Your culture, religion, tech group, whatever, doesn't matter, but of course you want to go ahead and be a republic. And you want to make sure you're a republic with a 4-year election term. So no Italian signoras, please. You're going to spend too long electing. No, you want to be something like an oligarchy. Or a plutocracy, again, up to you. Just nothing like a noble elite. Oligarchy works. You can even be a peasant republic, or a Dutch republic, or a federal republic, or American republic if you really want to. Just make sure you actually have elections, so no military dictatorships. I'm going to go with the Swiss cantons, because why not? Anyway, this build revolves around this one thing that you can get only in custom nation ideas, and it is literally impossible to find this anywhere else in the base game outside of this one ability, length of election term -1. I then recommend to combine this bonus with a pretty massive 30% re-election cost reduction, as well as 0.3 yearly Republican tradition, just to really make sure you're very democratic. You're going to need a lot of Republican tradition for this. However, the re-election costs and yearly Republican tradition obviously naturally help. And then I would also suggest grabbing some bonuses to reform progress growth, because you need to do some government reforms. More specifically, as you can see, we have an election in 3 years, and each re-election costs us 5 Republican tradition. Well, I would suggest going down plutocratic, get that flat monthly reform progress growth, and combine it with, I'm not kidding, court, as this has more yearly Republican tradition modifiers, and even more reform progress growth. So again, you can get these reforms done ASAP. Grab republicanism for more yearly Republican tradition. Grab, naturally, frequent elections for length of election term -1, of course. Grab whatever you want here, this doesn't matter. I would suggest Attorney General, though, at tier 6, because you guessed it, even more yearly Republican tradition. And of course, at tier 9, you need to make sure you go ahead and grab new men. Oh no, -1 length of election term. So unfortunately, this is not enough to get to daily elections. The modifier is uncapped, but these are the only 3 sources in the game, and for one of those 3 sources, we had to go for custom nations. But this gives you yearly elections, and each re-election cost you 2 Republican tradition means you need to generate 2 Republican tradition a year, which you're pretty much already doing. You're making 1.7 a year, letting you basically sit at the cap. Of course, things like righteous will help even more, and of course, reinforcing Republican values decreases re-election cost by 10%, which isn't reflected here, but yes, combined with the 30% re-election cost, you're going to be basically fine. You're not going to be spending anywhere near Republican tradition to be able to maintain yearly re-elections of the same guy. This gets even stronger if you ever combine this with monuments like the White House, which have even more re-election cost. Oh no. And hey, is that reform progress growth? That's very convenient. And of course, getting both monarch lifespan, which you can get within custom ideas, I just didn't bother with that here, as well as, of course, other sources of monarch lifespan, like the mausoleum of Halicarnassus, a mausoleum that was so fancy it makes your monarch live longer for some reason. Now, this electoral system is not only amazing at turning every single person in existence into a 666 ruler within just 5 short years of running the country, it also generates plus 50 monarch points every single time you re-elect. You don't control those monarch points, but it comes to 13 of each monarch point of each category, on average, which comes to +1 monarch point effective on all 3 of these categories. This means you get a +1 here, +1 here, and +1. This means that you basically get a free +1 advisor, or an effective +1 on everything while maintaining 666 rulers. And all of these builds tend to come with a lot of advisor cost reductions, which again, combining with the tier 6 reform, lets you print even more Republican tradition. So again, you're absolutely not worrying about it because of a +5 advisor giving you 0.1 for each one, so 0.3 overall. Yeah, you're going to be swimming in monarch points. So enjoy your yearly re-elections. And unfortunately, without mods, there's no way to get it to daily, but daily re-elections, while really funny and completely broken, do unfortunately work, which means that you get ready for a daily election pop-up screen. Yearly elections, though, are manageable and very, very powerful and quite fun. So yes, enjoy. However, this is of course not the final build that I want to talk about today. Now, we're going to make this custom nation together just to walk through all the steps. You need to make sure your custom nation has its capital within the Lübeck trade node. So I'd suggest starting with Lübeck itself, but depends your call wherever you want to put it. And make sure you grab the province of Hamburg, Bremen, and Sealand. Very disunited, you're basically making a budget Hansa. In fact, you're going to be forming the Hanseatic League. Now, for extra fun, I would also suggest, because if you don't grab it immediately, you're going to have to conquer those provinces, and it gets a bit painful, go ahead and grab the provinces of Innital, because it's a good gold province, and Nitria, because it has a monument you want. I'd also suggest grabbing any other gold mines you particularly fancy, like Cheb, but of course bear in mind that any kind of extra gold mine grabbing is going to look quite ugly, and also going to make you an easier target to invade, because some more AIs are going to demand or desire those provinces. So there's a risk to it. Kosovo may be an amazing province, however, it does come with being next to the Ottomans, which is not something you may want to partake in. Or maybe it is if you want to vassalize Byzantium. I'll leave that up to you. Anyway, I'm going to go with these provinces as my selection. Next, we're going to take some interesting bonuses, because this entire build is going to revolve around gold and loans. Yes, a very weird combination of things, but in essence, we're going to get all of the gold, and we're going to take all of the loans and have all of the money. So, expand your financial markets and get -1 interest per annum. This is already stupidly good. Then make sure you get advanced mining, which is going to decrease your gold depletion chance by 50%. Oh no, you could probably see where this is going. I'm also going to suggest, just for your own sanity and for a later thing that's going to come in, to go ahead in your first idea and get all power cost -5%. It's expensive, but it's going to offset the +5% we're going to pick up for, you guessed it, more interest per annum. And this is the main part of the build. As always, feel free to customize any other ideas or any other setup to your liking. See, our interest is already reduced by 1%, so it's already 3% loans instead of 4%, which is very good, but we can go ahead, go to our burgers, and grab control over monetary policy. Oh no. And of course, the Monument of the Golden City, which at level 3 gives us a global modifier decreasing our gold depletion chance by 33 and decreasing our interest per annum by 1. Oh no. Yeah, build the monument. Now, you may have already spotted something. We have a global gold depletion chance of -33 and a local gold depletion chance of -25, which does mean indeed that this gold on this specific monument already will never deplete, but we want global 0% depletion chance. And you guessed it, you can get it, because all we need for that is economic ideas. Not only do they come with tax, yearly inflation reduction, which will be helpful against that gold, and a merchant, you also get gold depletion chance modifier -25% globally. Congratulations, you have -108% global gold depletion chance modifier. 8% of the time, your gold undepletes itself and doubles. Not actually, unfortunately, how that works. That would have been really funny. But yes, you don't have gold depletion anymore. Enjoy. And this province has literally -133% gold depletion chance, because of course it does. Anyway, we also pick up -0.5 interest per annum. Oh no. And if you take a look at that, as you can see, we can now have all of the loans. We have 1% interest per annum. So we have 17 income right now. How many loans can we take? Okay, this is getting quite painful to click, and our inflation is getting pretty bad. But yeah, no, this is stupid. This is infinite burger loans. This is basically infinite money. Even with 17 income, we have currently taken out an obscene amount of debt. We have 5,000 ducats on, again, 17 income, and we're paying 5 ducats a month of interest. I guess I should probably stop clicking soon. But yes, again, just to really reiterate, we're approaching 100k of money taken out as loans. And how much is that going to cost us per interest? Not even gonna cost us 10 ducats. We have 186 loans out of 410 that we can make. The inflation isn't great, be careful with that, but thankfully control over monetary policy helps. So, not only are you able to take out stupid amounts of debt to build all the monuments and have all of the fun and have all of the money, you can also mine all of the gold to pay off all the debt and have all of the money. Finally, why did we make sure our capital is here, and why did we grab these provinces? Well, this lets us go ahead and declare the Hanseatic League. Day 1. Yep, of course it does. Which not only keeps our estate privileges, which is great, it also means that we now become a republic, which is neat, but more importantly, we get Hanseatic missions, which lets us develop the mineral trade in our capital, meaning that we have a choice. We can either spawn gold inside of a farmland province and dev a gold mine to the absolute moon that never has a chance of depleting. More specifically, of course, because this mission also gives us -25% gold depletion chance, so we have a -133% chance of depleting, because of course we do. Or we can go ahead and move the capital to Dallas Kogan to get +9 goods produced, and then also dev this random forest to the absolute moon. Up to you. I would suggest just making a City of the World's Desire on Lubeck or something a farmland, center of trade province that has all this nice dev cost for you to enjoy, and have an infinite non-depleting gold mine for the ultimate roleplay experience of just being filthy, filthy rich. Just to be clear, of course, you keep your custom nation ideas when forming a nation, and this 5% all power cost does exist to offset the control over monetary policy plus 5% all power cost from this. It's stupid, it's strong, it's completely broken, and it is the ultimate money build that isn't trade. Not that many of them around, but they do exist for you to enjoy. Gold mines that never deplete, and loans that are free to take. But that is unfortunately all the time I have for you today. Thank you very much for watching, with a special thank you to my channel members, especially Ark, Soda, W Haste, Solemon, Sar72, Lol Zendikar, Nick Fuzzbender, Nanhatan, Nick Huss, The Awesome Rabbit, Best Pro Gaming, Gradmil Flavia, Kono, Andius Alberg, Deki, Sov, Mobkiller, Anthony35, AC Napo, Glorious Leader, Zerkis, and Mr. Coomshock.